Peace and light that I'll go in Australia. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram, YouTube, and hit the notification button. You'll know when I'm doing a video. We've nearly got 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty amazing for me. Just an old, no one really, just me. I'm really humbled. But I'm very, very grateful. Look, I did a video earlier and I got swamped by a flock of sulphur-crested cockatoos, and the noise was so bad when I did the playback on the video, I said, I can't post that. It's insane. The noisiest birds out. What you can hear at the moment are bellbirds, little native Australians. They're their own pest. They're killing these trees. I'll just show you. Can you see how the trees are dying? You can hear the bellbirds, only little olive-coloured birds, not very big. You can see them flying around over there, not very big. See how the trees are dying? That's the bellbirds. It's quite amazing. They have these bugs that land on the tree and they eat the sap out of the tree, and that kills the tree, right? Then there's these other bugs that come along who eat those bugs. And those killer bugs that like to eat the ones that are killing the tree, bellbirds like them. So the bellbirds come on and they eat all these bugs that are actually trying to save the tree, and hence the tree dies. So over in the bush across the other side, there's hundreds of dead trees. Hundreds. Anyway. Little bellbirds trying to eat their morning breakfast and they're killing the trees, inadvertently. Boy, there's some bloody stories in that, isn't there? Great analogies. Anyway, look, I just had to come out and tell you something pretty quickly, as much as I can. I've rattled on enough. I was up doing a bit of research this morning, as I do every day, 2, 3, 4 hours a day, every day, 1,200 hours a year, more than likely, somewhere around that mark I've worked out. Because I don't want to be ignorant, I don't want to be uneducated, I don't want to just swallow the narrative. I want to know what the truth is, I want to get to the truth. I don't want people saying, oh, you're just going down rabbit holes. Oh, really, good on you. People say that to cover their own asses because they're too lazy to do any kind of research, and they don't want to know the truth because it's too painful, and sometimes they just don't know how to research, or they're just too freaking lazy. You know, they're not interested. They just think life's going on pretty well, and you know, we've just bought a nice little boat, or we're going on a holiday, or the kids are playing soccer, or I'm going to golf, whatever might be the case. And they're not worried about anything. They don't want to be having to worry about anything, and so they just say to you, oh, you're just going down a rabbit hole, tinfoil hat wearer. I go, righto. You know, research. I do no different than a scientist. That's what a scientist does, goes and researches. I do it differently, but he's not a tinfoil hat wearer. He's questioning everything. Well, he's supposed to. Anyway. But anyway, I was watching a video on YouTube this morning and just getting a sense of a bit of stuff, and when I turned it over back to normal TV, because I don't leave it on YouTube, because other people in the house, I just turned it back to normal telly, and it just so happened at that moment, probably a good thing really, it switched over to Channel 7, and Channel 7 was just beginning its morning show or something. It must have been on the hour or half hour, and they were talking about the footy. And I don't care whether you think sport's a distraction. There's a lot of good people play sport, a lot of Christians play sport, a lot of amazing people play sport. It's just a job. It's us who elevate them. But it's just a job, no different than a shopkeeper, it's a job. And when you get to the elite levels, man, that takes an enormous amount of dedication, sacrifice and skill. And not everybody's got that kind of skill to play some of these sports at the level that these people do, and I love it. I just love it. I don't care what you think about that. It's entirely up to you. You know, it's not the elite who created these sports, by the way. Anyway, they just saw an opportunity, I guess. But good on them. I don't really care. It's just a job. So I thought I'd tune in and see what's happening with the Richmond Tigers, because tonight, my other sport that I love is the AFL, and tonight's the opening bounce. You have the same every year, same game, Carlton versus Richmond, and Richmond's had a bit of a thing over Carlton in the last 10 years or 15 years or whatever in the opening game, and I was very fortunate about 5 years ago, 6 years ago I think. I went with a team of guys from Newcastle. They picked me up and I went through to Victoria, down to Mornington Peninsula. We played golf through the peninsula with Radish, a mate, and of course during that time was the opening bounce of the AFL season, so this time of year. It would have been this weekend, I guess. And so our friends, the Rogers brothers, Marty, John, Paul, were down there, and Marty's daughter worked for Richmond, and they contacted me and said, look, we've got some tickets for the opening down to the AFL. Do you want to come? I'm like, oh, hello, is a Pope Catholic? I should say it's a Pope a pedophile. But anyway, off we went now. Radish, unfortunately, sad sack, was and still is, I guess, a Carlton supporter, so he didn't have a great night, but I did. And there was 92,000 people there. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I ticked a few bucket lists there for me, because I'm a simple guy. I don't ask for anything too much, but we did John took us on a tram ride. Never been on a tram from St Kilda. And we went to the stadium, which is the MCG, the G. It was brilliant, just brilliant. I love it, and I'm eternally grateful to them for what they did. And it was just, wow, for me, fantastic. You know? But while I tuned in to watch that, of course, I had to sit through the news. And the news now is just sickening to me. I can't watch it anymore. I just can't, like a lot of you. Because I know that every single piece there, they used to have a phrase years ago, it was called the cutting room floor. And if you're old enough to know what that means, so they would have miles and miles of old film. And it was up to the editor to sort it out and splice it. And what he didn't want was cut out, and it fell to the floor. So that was the cutting room floor. And the only thing on the cutting room floor in the news room now is the truth. Everything else that's put on the TV and the news is just bullshit and lies. It's a controlled narrative. Every single story, everything that's said, because they're reading off teleprompters, is totally and carefully scripted to suit a narrative. Every single thing, you know. And then, of course, it's constructed in a way to have you viewing that black hole in your room on a constant basis. And that's how they fed you that bullshit during the lockdowns, with the streaming of the numbers. So I can't watch the news. To me, it's very transparent. It's bullshit. I can't watch it. I just can't. And so this morning, I sat through it. And there were 3 stories that came up that I wanted to address. The first one was that we're in for some hot weather. Just thought I'd let you know. It's a weather event. It's going to get hot. Head towards Easter. We're just out of summer. It's going to get hot. Yeah, climate change. When it gets cold, they'll tell you it's going to get cold. Climate change. When it rains, they'll tell you it's going to rain. Climate change. And, you know, there's a group of us, a heap of us, used to go camping at Mystery Bay every Easter. I'd go down, set up the campsite, and we'd all move down. And I actually worked from there for a while. It was great. It was fantastic. I was married at the time. And it was really, really good. And we used to mark, that was 20 years ago or more, 25 years ago. We used to remark on how hot it was during Easter. But I'm not going to get into the Gregorian calendar or go down that little track, right? But I just want to mention it because it suits a narrative. They've always, the weather is one thing that they focus on constantly. Push. The second thing that was out there was a beautiful whipbird down there. There's no point me trying to show you. Gorgeous things. The second thing they had on there was Australia spending $370 billion to buy some submarines that'll take 10 to 15 years to manufacture, because we had a deal with France to manufacture our submarines. Joe Biden and Boris Johnson from UK stepped in and said, no, we can't do that. Particularly Biden, because he said, well, we own Australia. You know, you're no longer a bloody constitution, you're a corporation, and we own it. We're the title deed holder. We've got Pine Gap, the biggest military base in the southern hemisphere. You're not even allowed to go near it, and you certainly can't fly within a 100-kilometre radius of it. You've got to fly all your planes around it, and 95% of that base is underground. We don't know how big it is, but it is massive. Massive. If you knew how big that military-industrial complex was in the middle of Australia, you'd shit your pants. And then, of course, they've got this massive airport up in Darwin, which is owned by the US military. The airport's up there. Massive. So we're part of the US military complex. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, we are. Anyway, $370 billion. We've been through floods, we've been through fires, droughts. There's enough money in that budget. That amount of money alone would lift everybody in Australia out of poverty and would fix their homes. We've still got people waiting from the fires to have their homes built. You know, it would fix everything, that amount of money. We'd be able to do the Watsy pipeline, which was, mooted and thrown about in the 1930s. I can't think of the name at the moment, from northern Queensland out through the outback, and we could waterproof all of the outback of Australia from a fraction of that money. But we're not doing it. None of this is done because they don't care about humanity, they don't care about society or people. Otherwise they do these things. But no, we need these subs because we've got to get into. America's told us we've got to have them, despite the fact that the world is not going to last that long. Trust me. We all know it. Us truthers know it. We're not even going to get there. We've only got a couple of years left before shit hits the fan. Not even. They've told us they've brought Agenda 2030 forward, and this year's been enormous pressure. Interest rates have gone up 10 times in a row. We're heading for 11. The Reserve Bank of Australia, which Wikipedia and Google will tell you is solely, the sole subsidiary of Australian government and whatever else. It's all bullshit, smoke and mirrors. It is not owned. It is not an Australian bank. The Australian Reserve Bank is not an Australian bank. I'll put my left swinger on it. It's not what Google tells you, not what Wiki tells you. If that's your source of bloody information and research, then you're a sad sack and you're a lost cause. If you don't know where to go and look for this information, I can't help you. I'm not going to bother doing your research for you. But it's not an Australian bank, I can tell you. So they've been asked to put the pressure on, and they are. 2030's coming forward. So the story that came about that really got to me, that really shook me, was that electricity prices here in Australia are set to go up 20-30% over winter. 20 to 30%. And there's going to be gas shortages. And we knew this was coming. They talk about the green energy sector here in Australia, which is the biggest load of shit you've ever seen in your life. Our green sector cannot supply baseload power. No matter what you say, I don't care. It cannot supply baseload power to Australian homes. It just can't. We closed Whyalla Power Station in South Australia. Japan offered to put in their clean burn coal technology, which is cutting edge stuff. Reduces emissions. Those emissions, which were already reduced, reduce them again by 55%. But no, instead we just allow China to build another 132 coal-powered power stations, coal-fired power stations, and we don't care. They're the biggest emitter, as of India, of supposed CO2s, but we're going to cut ours back, and we're going to make sure that our 26 million people here in Australia suffer. Because Morrison signed for the Snowy River 2 project, which was to produce more power for Australia, to pump it down into Victoria, then across to South Australia, because they haven't got anything. They're short of power. Don't forget Elon Musk was going to save South Australia with the big battery. Never happened. Never happened. What happened there? Never happened. They were going to get all this cheap energy in South Australia, and Elon was putting in the big battery. Remember that? What happened there? $100 million bucks. What happened? Where'd that go? How come South Australians aren't paying 2 cents a kilowatt? How come they're not crying about their cheap prices because Tesla got in there and fixed it for them? What happened? No, you're still pumping power from Victoria. Who's pumping power from the Snowy River scheme? And we're stuffed. We're absolutely rooted. And power prices are going to go up 20 to 30% right across the board. We're struggling as it is. They're just determined to put more pressure on households, more pressures on mums and dads, more pressures on families and marriages, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. Build it and build it and build it until society just breaks down. People have got to sell their homes. They're living in bloody cars and caravans. Fires have ravaged through the south of Australia down here, and there's still people living in bloody caravans having their homes fixed. Up in Lismore, where the massive floods went through, 3 of them in the space of 6 months. Yeah. That's never been rebuilt. That's never ever, not even a focus of media attention anymore. And so many people up there without homes, got nothing. They've got nothing, lost everything. Are insurance company coming to the party? No. It's taken them years to get these things through, and they fight every step of the way. They take your money every month, and if you don't, they cancel your policy. But when you try and apply for any kind of recompense from them or compensation, they'll fight you to the last nail, using your own money to fight you. Mums and dads, Australian people and societies, we're the ones under the pump. We're the ones they don't give a shit about. We're the ones they don't care about. We're the ones, these megalomaniacs, these frickin' elite trillionaires are using as fodder. And look, I tell you now, if you don't get your head out of your ass, if you don't start to wake up and realise that people who are involved in this freedom protests, who are truthers, who are trying to get this information out to you, if you don't start to understand what's going on, if you can't see it now, if you don't even want to question, if you can't bring yourself to wonder, then I don't see there's any hope for you. I really don't. You're just sitting there with your head in the sand, just hoping to God everything will go past. Oh, it's a bit quiet down now. Everything's quieted down now. They've removed the mandates. No, they haven't, but it's all quieted down now. We don't have to wear masks. There's more people in hospital now than ever before. 95% of the people in hospital have got the bloody bug, supposedly. But you know what? Don't worry about that. They're not scrolling it across the black hole in our living rooms, so therefore we'll take no notice of it. We won't care. Oh, really? 20% excess deaths? Well, don't talk about it, Owen. Don't. It's so negative. It's so negative. You're bringing down the vibration of the planet. Really? Really? You do your shit and I'll do mine. Don't tell me that I can't reveal these facts, that I can't talk about this stuff because I'm being negative. No, don't tell me that. You need to release the energies and to raise your vibration. If that's what you think you've got to do, then you do it. You do you, I'll do me. End of story. But don't bag me for what I do. And I won't bag you. You do it. People have got to wake up. They have to wake up. Because the last thing they do when they herd you into those paddocks is they close the gate. And once they close the gate, it's a little too late to do anything. The only thing left after that, of course, is everybody gets branded. For every man shall receive upon his right hand or his forehead a mark without which he may neither buy nor sell. Believe what you will. You believe what you will. You believe what you will. That was written 2,000 years ago. I just happen to think there's some truth in it. And I look at what's happening around the place now, and I look at the AI that's ready to be introduced. It's not being worked on. It's all been absolutely set in place. It's just going to be thrust upon you in a blink. So you don't have a chance. You won't. And you better wake up. Because I said, once they shut that gate, it's going to be a little too late for anything. The only good news I've got for you is this. In the end, we do win. As I keep saying, there's some amazing people fighting this right around the world. Amazing people. You would have seen the Senate hearings in the US. You would have seen what's happened with the exposure of the WhatsApp messages in England, explaining how they were releasing a virus that they knew was fake, and they were just going to use it as a fear factor to keep people locked down. Please wake up. Please understand. Please at least question and wonder if indeed there's something to this, if there is indeed some truth to what we're trying to tell you. Right? We're not asking you to slide down the rabbit hole. We're asking you to have a look at some of this stuff. Listen to the world's greatest scientists who've been smeared and blocked. Listen to what they're telling you. Listen to these researchers who've had hold of these injection material for bloody a long time now, and look at what they're finding in there. Looking at the results that are showing you what's happening with people's blood. Look what's happening with people's white blood cell counts, what's happening with their immune system. This is research that's coming out on a daily basis. Don't just ignore it. Don't be frightened. Understand what's going on. Have a look. Ask one of your friends who you know is a bit out there, like me. I get hundreds of messages every week, and a lot from local people here on the coast, believe me, people I don't even know. They write to me and ask me. They just go on Messenger and send me a message. Hundreds of people locally here in Narooma write to me and ask me for information. And I send it to them. So what else am I going to do? In the end, we win. But this is coming at us very hard, very thick, very fast. Be aware. In the meantime, be aware of the time you have. Ring somebody you haven't spoken to. Go and see someone you haven't visited. Tell someone you love them who you haven't told. Take it in. Be present. Peace and light, that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button, and we'll catch you soon.